Hello everybody, I am Yasir, and today in this tutorial we will discuss oil and gas well. That is, what is basically a well. This is a very used term in oil and gas industry, so we will try to understand this basic or fundamental concept about well. So well is basically a conduit or passage which is used to bring the hydrocarbons from the subsurface to the surface. What does it mean? It means that we know that the hydrocarbons are under the ground, they are below the earth's surface. Okay, so to bring these hydrocarbons from the subsurface to the surface, we need a passage, we need a path. So this path, which is composed of steel pipes, it is called well. So keeping it simple, if someone asks you that what is well, it is basically a passage, a pathway to bring the hydrocarbons from the subsurface to the surface. So that is a very basic definition about the well. Now let's try to understand the well in a little more detail. So in our previous tutorials, when we were discussing about the petroleum reservoir, we came to know that petroleum reservoir is something which is present underground, a collection of hydrocarbons. Okay, so underground, in the below the earth's surface, here is the earth's surface. So below this earth's surface at a certain depth, let's say 10,000 feet, there is an accumulation, or there is a collection of hydrocarbons, that is oil and gas. That collection of hydrocarbons is called petroleum reservoir. So bring that petroleum reservoir or that oil and gas from the subsurface, that is below the earth. Here is the surface on which we walk, the ground surface. Okay, and below this ground surface at a specific depth, let's say 10,000 feet, there is oil and gas. So to bring this oil and gas from this subsurface to the surface, we need a path. Okay, so that path is called well. So to bring these hydrocarbons from the subsurface to surface, we actually make a hole in the ground. Okay, so this hole is called well. Now let's read this statement. Assume that at a specific depth underground we have a petroleum reservoir, and now we need to build a passage to reach that reservoir. We will drill a hole in the ground which is called well. So if I just summarize all my discussion up till now, what I have discussed, it is that a well is basically a hole in the ground to bring the oil and gas from the subsurface to the surface. Talking about the components of oil and gas well, although up till the discussion we have made, it says that well is simply a passage. Okay, it's a pathway, but it's not as simple as we have just discussed. It's not like a simple hole. Okay, overall that's right that we just said that it's ultimately a passage, but it's not as simple as it is just a hole. There is a complete engineering involved in the construction of the well or in the development of the well, which we will discuss later in detail. So a typical well is composed of a number of components. The most common components which we will see in a well include cement, casing, then tubing, annulus, packer, perforation. Okay, so all these terminologies we need to understand if we want to understand the well in more detail. Yeah, that's right that well is simply a passage, but practical well have multiple components which we need to understand. We will understand these components step by step in our upcoming tutorials. So that was our discussion. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next tutorial.